Revival for whom? This editorial questions whether Pakistan's touted economic revival truly benefits the majority, arguing that beneath the impressive numbers lies a deep-rooted structural crisis. No amount of self-congratulatory full-page advertisements in newspapers on the first anniversary of the February 8, 2024 elections, along with television ads showing a benevolent, far-sighted prime minister giving instructions to a young girl about all that has been achieved for Pakistan's economic revival and what yet needs to be done, will hide the deep rot that lies underneath the country's political, economic, and social reality. Self-congratulatory is an adjective describing excessive self-praise. These ads celebrate government achievements. Full-page advertisements refer to large, prominent ads in newspapers. Benevolent means kindly and well-meaning, while far-sighted implies visionary planning. The Prime Minister depicted is shown instructing a young girl, a symbolic gesture suggesting nurturing future generations. Economic revival is the claimed turnaround in economic performance. Deep rot is a metaphor for severe underlying decay. Lies underneath indicates that these superficial celebrations mask fundamental problems in the political, economic, and social systems. Celebrating revival, while understandable under the current political economy dispensation, overlooks fundamental and deep structural issues that undermine any ambition to fly, whether under the UN program or in terms of the growth rate. The word celebrating refers to praising or commemorating achievements. Revival in quotes implies that the claimed progress is debatable. Political economy dispensation denotes the current system of political and economic management. Overlooks means fails to consider. Fundamental and deep structural issues are basic, systemic problems. Undermine any ambition to fly is a metaphor comparing economic progress to the ability to soar, suggesting that without addressing core issues, lofty ambitions, like those of the UN program, a government initiative, or higher growth rates are unattainable. Not to spoil the celebrations, for there are grounds which clearly reveal that Pakistan's economy at least, and importantly as gauged by a series of numbers, has shown huge signs of improvement over the last few years, and especially since the tumultuous months of spring 2022. Not to spoil the celebrations is an idiom meaning not to diminish the positive news. The sentence acknowledges that statistical indicators, a series of numbers, show improvements in the economy, particularly since the turbulent spring of 2022. The inflation rate is down to its lowest in almost a decade from its highest ever point just 15 months ago. This line highlights a significant drop in inflation, indicating improved price stability compared to a peak reached 15 months prior. The exchange rate has been stable for almost 2 years now, something which shows not just better management, but also considerably improving balance of payment situation. Exchange rate refers to the value of the rupee relative to other currencies. Stability over 2 years suggests effective economic management. Balance of payments is a record of all financial transactions between a country and the rest of the world. Improvement here signals healthier external finances. In addition, Pakistan is expected to achieve its largest ever inflow of foreign remittances this financial year. Remittances are funds sent home by Pakistanis working abroad. The expectation of record inflows is presented as another positive indicator of economic improvement. Even the interest rate has been halved over the last many months, and there are small signs that credit to the private sector may increase. Interest rate refers to the cost of borrowing money, and a halved rate suggests easing monetary conditions. Small signs imply tentative positive trends in the availability of credit for businesses. The world record-breaking 24th IMF program also seems well on course for its review next month, with the IMF expected to release its second tranche. World record-breaking underscores the scale of Pakistan's IMF program, and 24th IMF program denotes its ongoing relationship with the International Monetary Fund. Second tranche is financial jargon for the next portion of disbursed funds. Since all these numbers look so good, what's the problem? A rhetorical question prompting readers to consider that, despite these positive metrics, deeper issues remain. The numerous other sets of numbers not quoted by government sources suggest that things are not as dazzling as the ones claimed by those who run the country. This sentence argues that selective reporting of statistics paints an overly optimistic picture, while omitted data reveal a less favorable reality. The first fundamental problem lies in the perpetual legitimacy question, where it is obvious to all that the party and the leader who won the most votes in 2024 are not in power. Perpetual means never-ending. Legitimacy refers to the rightful authority of the government. The sentence criticizes the fact that the party with the majority of votes is not governing, calling into question the democratic process. Even if we set aside this annoying fact, there are other reasons to think differently about where our economy stands today and the directions in which it is headed. The phrase set aside means to ignore temporarily. Annoying fact conveys frustration with the current political situation, suggesting that even beyond this issue, other indicators point to deeper economic concerns. Economist Hafiz Pasha, in a series of articles and interviews, has argued that as much as 44% of Pakistan's population currently lives below the poverty line, a poverty line which merely allows one to survive on a very basic income. Economist Hafiz Pasha is cited to lend authority. 44% quantifies extreme poverty, and poverty line here is defined as the minimum income needed for basic survival. If more than 100 million people live below the poverty line, and since the number has increased over the last few years, whatever revival is supposedly taking place has not affected this population. This sentence highlights that despite overall economic improvements, a large segment of the population remains impoverished, undermining claims of widespread progress. Moreover, while it is a great relief that the inflation rate is currently under 3%, prices continue to rise and those who have low and fixed incomes lose out every month. Under 3% means below 3%. Despite low inflation, rising prices still harm people with limited income, as they cannot adjust their earnings accordingly. Moreover, Dr. Pasha's calculations show that the current unemployment rate is higher than 9%. This adds that unemployment remains significantly high, over 9%, further complicating the economic picture. He also shows that the real wage of workers in Pakistan has seen a fall of almost 20% in the last 3 years. Real wage is the wage adjusted for inflation, and a 20% fall indicates a substantial loss in purchasing power for workers. With marginal growth in GDP over the last 5 years, these numbers are not surprising, especially when population growth is higher than the economy's growth rate. Marginal growth means only slight increase in GDP. When population growth outpaces economic growth, overall living standards tend to stagnate or decline. If nothing else, Pakistan can celebrate having the highest population growth rate in the world. This sarcastic remark implies that high population growth is a negative outcome, highlighting a major demographic challenge. Many of these supposedly extraordinary numbers matter little to most Pakistanis. This statement asserts that while headline figures may look impressive, they do not reflect real improvements in the everyday lives of the population. These numbers counter any claim of revival and progress with regard to the economy improving and having a real effect. The sentence reinforces that positive statistics are undermined by data on poverty, unemployment, and falling wages, casting doubt on claims of true revival. The numbers look good, but have not translated into real improvement in the lives of the people. This line reiterates that economic indicators are disconnected from the actual living conditions of most citizens. But this is just the top of the very large iceberg which hides troubling trends. The tip of the iceberg is a metaphor suggesting that visible improvements are only a small part of a much larger set of hidden problems. In a forthcoming report on productivity in Pakistan, to be released by the State Bank of Pakistan, some key numbers are extremely disturbing. This sentence introduces an upcoming report that is expected to reveal alarming data about productivity, hinting at deeper systemic issues. For one, the quality of labor and labor productivity have declined in the last 2 decades, showing serious inefficiencies in production. Labor productivity refers to the output per worker. A decline indicates worsening efficiency and competitiveness in the economy. Pakistan's savings rate, so crucial for investment, is half that of the rest of South Asia, as is its investment rate. These comparisons underscore that Pakistan's ability to invest in its future is severely constrained by low savings and investment, which are vital for economic growth. With such low structural and deep trends, low labor productivity, and low savings and investment trends, Revival and progress remain well out of reach. The repetition of low emphasizes that persistent structural weaknesses prevent any meaningful economic revival. However, the most disturbing trend which this study reveals relates to human capital. This sentence shifts focus to human capital, referring to the skills, education, and health of the workforce as a critical and troubling area. Pakistan's secondary enrollment rate today is at the level where South Korea's was in 1972, while Pakistan's tertiary enrollment rate today is where South Korea's was in 1979. And this striking comparison uses historical data from South Korea to show that Pakistan's education system lags by several decades. The exclamation mark emphasizes shock and dismay. These are astonishing numbers showing that in terms of human capital, so critical for the information and technological age, Pakistan is 4 decades behind South Korea. The term astonishing highlights the severity of the gap, and 4 decades behind quantifies the extensive delay in human capital development, crucial for modern economic competitiveness. Not surprisingly, none of the numbers released by the government congratulating itself on its supposedly fantastic performance show these figures. This criticizes selective reporting by the government, which ignores key indicators like education that are essential for long-term growth. Clearly, the economic numbers are better now than what they were just 2 years ago. This concedes that there have been improvements in certain economic metrics over the recent past. Yet many of these supposedly extraordinary numbers matter little to most Pakistanis. Reiterates that despite improved statistics, the benefits have not reached the general population. The stock market is the best indicator of such fake exuberance. Fake exuberance implies that the stock market's record-breaking performance is superficial. The stock market is used as an example of economic indicators that do not reflect widespread prosperity. The stock market may have broken many records each month over the last year or so, but the fact that at best only 300,000 or so individuals invest in the stock market, of which a minute fraction consists of active investors, is ample evidence of which numbers matter and which are completely irrelevant. This sentence contrasts impressive stock market records with the reality that very few people participate, demonstrating that such figures have little impact on the lives of most citizens. Unless economic policy focuses sharply on issues which affect people directly, such as wages and employment equity, these celebrations are meaningless. Focuses sharply means concentrates intensely. Wages and employment equity refer to fair pay and job opportunities. This line argues that without addressing these critical issues, the positive economic numbers are irrelevant to everyday life. Numerous MOUs are signed with visiting dignitaries, but they are mere photo ops. Little of substance comes out of these events. MOUs, Memoranda of Understanding, are agreements that, in this context, are criticized as superficial, mere photo ops, with no real follow-through. With pitiful school and college enrollment rates, especially for girls, with the internet and its technology purposely disrupted, and laws passed that restrict free thought and speech, a key income earning opportunity for the population is curtailed. This long sentence lists multiple issues: low educational enrollment, particularly for girls, deliberate disruption of technological access, and restrictive laws on free expression. Curtailed means limited or reduced, showing how these factors diminish opportunities for economic advancement. If this was truly a revival, a point of inflection for the future, one should have primarily seen programs for the 44% who are below the poverty line and whose real wages have fallen. Point of inflection is a term for a decisive turning point. The sentence argues that a genuine revival would prioritize initiatives for the 44% of the population living in poverty, whose income has declined. The numbers have improved, but the lives of the majority of Pakistanis have not. This succinctly summarizes the central argument. Statistical improvements have not translated into better living conditions for most people. The writer is a political economist and heads the IBA Karachi. The views are his own and do not represent those of the institution. This attribution provides the writer's credentials and clarifies that the opinions expressed are personal. Published in Dawn, February 20th, 2025.